we started fairly young in the financial sector. I trained as a broker, and during the course of my career, I worked in the commodities markets primarily, selling and buying gold, silver, platinum, currencies.
Wow.
Physically. So we didn't work through a derivative. We actually bought and sold the physical commodity, which was quite an interesting market. Primarily working with high net worth, people had to be self-certified high net worth or ultra high net worth individuals, and we put together strategies for them to benefit from fluctuations in the currencies and the precious metals market. It's a safe haven style investment, basically, and we used leverage, which made it riskier, but also made it more profitable for those when they got them right. So that was my grounding in the trading market, really.
So you're dealing with trading and investments straight away, really early on?
Yeah, well, I did some selling before then. I was involved. I trained as a salesperson, and my mentor really in the early days was a guy called George and Bobby Thompson, two brothers, and they were really focused on getting young people, and it was the first time I had any opportunity to do any self-development. I remember that George used to love a guy called Frank Becker, and he had this book called How I Raised Myself from a Failure to a Success in Selling. A really snappy title. I mean, they really knew how to drag you in those days, and we kind of had that as our mantra, our Bible, really, and we used to read that all the time, and they really helped young people to understand selling, and we would go selling all sorts of things, fire extinguishers and all that sort of stuff to start. Those were almost just kids. When I say kids, like 16, 17, 18, that kind of thing. So
real hustling straight
oh
away.
yeah. Well, in those days, it was direct selling. Direct selling was very popular back in the day, and that was the business they ran, and it was a real grounding in, because it was commission as well. So you had to sell, basically. I mean, and then all we did was we basically got paid at the end of the week in a little brown envelope with cash, as always in those days, and you'd basically go to the pub and have a few beers and it was gone, so Monday you had to go back to work. So it was a real kind of hand-to-mouth existence, but a great learning curve. And I met some, and still have, wonderful friends from those days that we kind of made this bond that we stuck together, but it taught us how to get your point across, make a reasonable conversation with people to get them to buy something from you. So it was tough going. I mean, it was tough going. We talk about social media now. You've got 20 seconds to keep their attention. Well, that's never changed. If you walked up to somebody and tried to sell them something, you've got about 5 seconds to get their attention before they walk off or tell you to go and find something else to do. So that was a good grounding. And then into financial services, sort of used it as a good grounding then, because again, in the investments trading business, everything's about selling again. I mean, so you're on the telephone, you've got to put together a strategy, then you've got to present it in such a way that it's attractive for a client to put their money into. So, and then of course you've got to get the result. Because if you don't get the result, you don't get the client back again. So it was a really good way to learn, because you've got to keep people's attention early on.
I think there's an important point there. You said it's about getting the attention, but also then getting the result.
Yeah, anybody. I mean, again, I'm gonna keep relating to George when we'll talk about the early days. But George Thompson always used to use the phrase, "Anybody can make a sale once," which I think is great, because anybody pretty well can make a sale once if you're prepared to say anything you need to say to get the sale. But what you've got to work on is getting the 10th sale, and the 12th sale, and the 50th sale with the same client, because otherwise you're just going to spend all your time getting new clients and using them once and then moving on to a new one, because you know you can't do the business again. So. There's a number of little things that we try and work to, under promise, over perform. This is really important, that we don't want to be sort of blue skying everything for people, because no matter what you invest in or what you're buying into, there's always going to be risk, and there's absolutely no point pretending otherwise. So let's make sure that we talk to people about what the risks are, what the downsides are potentially, together with what the benefits can and could be and should be, providing it's done correctly, and then also. It's track record. You people can look you up nowadays. There's no secrets anymore. So if somebody wants to know what you've done in the past and how well you've done it, they can look you up, and I'm sure people will, and I hope they do, because I've got some great pictures on Facebook, to be fair. So.
Well, that's it. Everything's transparent now, isn't it? And there's nowhere to hide, really. Okay, so how did we go from financial services, selling stocks, commodities, that sort of thing, and fire extinguishers to property?
So my father moved to Spain when he was 50, so some time ago. He's 75 now, 75 last month. And I'd go out and see him quite regularly, and friends in the office and colleagues I worked with were often looking for property in Spain at the time. And this is back in the kind of late 1990s, so 1999 up to 2000. Paul's, my business partner, Paul, who I'm sure you're gonna also grill. Paul, his family moved to Cyprus. And we was in Cyprus one day. I was getting a little bit jaded with the financial services side of things, particularly after 9/11. It was a very difficult time. And I wanted to do something different. I'd spent too long in that industry. I should have probably come out of it a little bit earlier. When you don't enjoy it anymore, and when you're not giving it everything, and you stop believing, you stop being believable. So I probably stayed in that business too long. But I really enjoyed property. I've always enjoyed property. I bought my first house when I was 18 years old. It's an interesting story. I bought it for investment, and it was a lovely 3-bedroom ex-local authority property. I was a bit bemused at the time because we had to go and see it on a Sunday morning. We couldn't view it at any other time, which was a little bit odd. But I kind of didn't ask any questions. It was one of those days. When you can buy property without putting any money in, really. And these guys promised me a great deal. The tenants were going to stay on board, and I thought, this is amazing. Why wouldn't you do this? And I think I bought the house for about £30,000. Went back the following Wednesday just to have another look. By this stage, by the way, we'd signed and we were on our way. And it soon became very apparent why we could only go and see it on a Sunday, because this house sat right at the end of Mildenhall Runway, which is the biggest USAF Air Force base in the UK. So these Thundercats or Tomahawks, whatever they were coming over at roof level at sort of 11 o'clock on a Wednesday morning. And I thought, I am never going to sell this house. I am going to have this house until I die. I did sell it, as it happens, but that's another story. So I bought property when I was very young, and I saw the benefit of owning property because I had rental income coming in. And in those days, it wasn't so easy. Interest rates were like 15%, but the properties kept going up in value. So I traded one or two, and I kept one or two, and I bought one for my mum to live in, and then bought one for myself, and it seemed like a sensible option to me. Late 1999s, early 2000s, people were more affluent in the UK, and they were looking for holiday homes. So Paul and I sat in the swimming pool of the hotel in Cyprus, and he said, "Do you fancy doing some business abroad?" And the timing was right for me, and I said, "Yeah, let's do that. Let's do it." So I set a business up in Spain. Paul set one up in Cyprus. We kind of linked it back in the UK through a company called Interlink, which we formed to run the admin and etc. from the UK and marketing from the UK. And it did really well. I mean, we were very lucky with the timing, because at that time there was a lot of people buying abroad. The banks were very open for business. There was a lot of really solid off-plan investments that worked very well. Obviously, later on, some of the off-plan stuff didn't work so well. But again, we'll come back onto that, I'm sure. We then brought in a third partner in Cyprus, because in those days, Cyprus wasn't in the EU, so you had to have a partner to set the business up there, which we did. Christos is still very active within the Interlink business in Cyprus. We still have it, and we went from there. So we started dealing in ones and twos, and then we built the office up in the UK. We were the first international property business to have a website that worked, so that was pretty cool. But again, it was all done without, I don't know if things happen accidentally or whether you work for them, but my brother-in-law is a web designer. He didn't know that at the time, nor did we, but he came to work for us for work experience. He loved the computer, and before you know it, he'd built us a website. He now makes an awful lot of money doing that. He's very good at it. So that happened, and then we started getting leads in, and prior to that we would do exhibitions and real, again, face-to-face conversations with potential clients and buyers. And it became very successful. We went from there into development. So we developed primarily in Cyprus. We partnered with developers all over Europe. We got a reputation for being able to distribute product. And as a result of that, developers got us involved really early on. So particularly in the developing countries like Bulgaria, for example, we helped them to design the properties in such a way that they would be attractive to international buyers, particularly the British and European buyers. So simple stuff like the way the kitchens were put together, the way the bathrooms were put in, and the flooring and heating, simple stuff like heating. So we helped from a consultancy point of view at the early stages of build, And then we took on the sole distribution rights for each project. So we did a lot of the early stuff in places like Bansko before some of the sort of less credible companies moved in, and we dealt with some really strong products there. We did an awful lot in some of the developing countries. We then got invited out to do properties in Southeast Asia for corporates, so executives moving abroad, wanting properties that we would have purpose built for them. Beautiful places, so a lot of relocation work. And then back in Cyprus, we really did push the boat out. Interlink Developers, which is still active in Cyprus, we built apartment blocks. We did a £22 million mixed-use semi-commercial office block complex.
Would you say that's been the most exciting project that you've done over there?
I think so. I mean, there's stuff on the website. When people look on the website, you'll see we've put all the examples on there, and these are actual. I mean, the nice thing is, and I think going back to what we said earlier, it's about credibility. Is that when we talk to people about property, we own property. I still own a decent portfolio in the UK. I still own a lot of property overseas. I've done refurbishment work. I've done building work in the UK. We've done international building work. We've done international consultancy work. And we tenant a lot of properties. So we deal with tenancies. We deal with holiday lets. So the nice thing is when we speak to people is there isn't a part of the business we haven't done, including building a £22 million project. So and when you build a £22 million project, you're building it from organising the finance, doing the planning, getting it through regulation, signing it off on each level, organising mezzanine funding, organising buyers in to come in and buy off plans so you can release contracts, all of those things. It's hugely complex. So the nice thing is between myself and Paul and the rest of the team, is we can talk to really anybody in the industry about any part of the industry. And we're not just talking the talk, we have walked the walk. We have actually done what it says on the tin. We've made sure that we delivered, and that's really important, I think.